welcome to Chapter Select at the Movies, where Randy and I continue to cover The Last of Us, episode by episode. How you doing, Randy?
I'm good. I'm good. Lots of life has hit both of us, you
Yes.
especially. So
Yeah.
trying to come up with a time for us to talk about this has been interesting, but we're,
Yeah,
we're,
well,
we're making
life hit
do.
me actually in December, and it's now the fallout from that.
Right.
Which is basically the repairs that I've been trying to, had to deal with the insurance, then I had to get the contractors, and it's like, now suddenly I'm on the schedule, and it's like, no, I'm about to leave for New York. I don't have time for this.
Right.
So everything's just kind of hitting all at once. It's been hard to fit this stuff in. So uh figured we should get this one out of the way while it's still semi fresh.
Yeah, well, bear with us. We'll get these episodes out and we'll talk about these episodes. They won't be the most timely that you've had.
Yeah, the
Hopefully
next
listen
couple
to
will
other
be yeah, the next couple won't be timely either,
Yeah.
just because, as I said, I will be in New York
Yep.
this coming weekend. So
Yep. So we'll make whatever we can, and we'll get those episodes out when we can. Thank you for bearing with us. But this is for episode 5 of the Last of Us HBO series, which means we
yes.
are officially halfway through the first season here. Jens, you just got done watching this. I watched it a week and a half ago.
True,
What are
fresh on
your
my mind.
quick overall thoughts on this episode?
I thought it was good. Um It continues the Last of Us trend of taking things that were perfect in the game and recreating them perfectly, and
Hmm.
also taking things that were not perfect in the game and making them better.
Yep.
So that
Um,
has been the MO so far. So you are?
I have thought about this again for a week and a half. This still might be my favorite episode so far.
Oh, really? So
Out of the
far?
first 5.
I
Out
I
of the
thought
first 5, it might be my favorite episode so far.
I think the pilot might still be my favorite.
And we're going to get into it in detail here shortly, but I'll just a quick summary. I
Mhm.
think, as you said, it what this show does so well is it takes what was great in the game and continues to make it great, whether it's identical or slight changed, or the things that we weren't big fans of, they've adapted and made stronger. I think this episode hits all of those high points in every
Mhm.
single aspect. We had scenes that were taken directly from the game, some that were slightly adapted but made so much better, characters that have a completely different twist to them
Mhm.
that even Neil Druckmann is upset he didn't think about in the first time.
Oh yeah?
While I'm still not huge on the Raiders and
Mhm.
the new storyline there, I do think that they tied it all together as
Well,
nice
you
as
were
you
right that they
can.
wrapped it all up. I didn't expect them to wrap it all up, and as you said last time we did this, they pretty much just resolved all those storylines, all
Yeah,
kind of in one
that's
go.
the positive and the negative of only having 9 episodes is
Mhm.
in other shows, we could spend almost a whole season. Like if this was The Walking Dead, this would be one season would be in Kansas City. We were
Mm.
in Kansas City for half of one episode and one full episode, and
I
they
don't know if
got it
that's a
all in there and out.
negative. I don't think that's a negative. I think
No, no, no,
the
no.
shorter
Especially the way they do it.
season,
The way they did
yeah.
it was fantastic. So
Mhm. I mean, I much prefer like short and sweet as far as entertainment goes over, like Walking Dead. I couldn't bear with Walking Dead. That show went on for eternity and they spent whole seasons in, single locations with I mean, sure it's moody,
mhm.
but it's also always been dumb. Sorry, Walking Dead fans. But
I'm
when
one.
that
I am one of the Walking Dead
Oh,
fans,
you
and
are.
we and most Walking Dead fans are the first to tell you, yeah, it went too long.
I read the Robert Kirkman comic book back in the day, up until maybe about issue 90 or so, around the 90 100 mark. Um, and I just felt like there was something lost in translation, or changes made for the worst, characters that I didn't like added, kind of things.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's very loosely based. It's not like what Last of Us
Oh
is
yeah,
doing.
and with the Walking Dead, they killed different characters that they didn't kill, and they wanted
Oh
to
yeah,
change
no,
it
they
up. And
totally. I mean, from the
I
start,
know
they
I've
were
seen
doing.
interviews with the Walking Dead comic book creators, and yeah, we're cool with it too. So yeah, at least
Oh
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
something
I mean,
different.
Kirkman.
So
I'm
even
sure
yeah,
Kirkman is happy to have those residuals for sure. He's happy. Um, this feels much more. I don't think like Walking Dead didn't feel like Kirkman's vision. It felt like Darabont's vision in season one. It felt like what Darabont wanted to do with the
hmm
Kirkman material, and this. even though Kirkman was involved, I think he wrote episode 4. One of the
It's
he's
been
written some Walking Dead episodes, but
so
it's
long.
not the level of creative
Yeah,
involvement
and
that
then so
we're
we had the
getting with this, right?
We had Darabon's vision the first season, and then they booted him.
They did boot him. Yep. That's when I stopped caring.
Yeah, the next couple
But
seasons were good, and then it fell apart. But yeah,
why are we
back
talking
to
about
The Last of
that?
Us.
Sorry, Walking Dead just came up as a point of comparison
Yeah.
as far as what I feel like a lot of the things that bug me about The Walking Dead, I feel this does right. And pacing is a big part of that.
Hmm.
So, on the one hand, with long form prestige TV, we do like story arcs that are carried over long periods of time. And maybe Last of Us feels more episodic than a lot of other prestige TV for that reason. Because, like, yes, even though this was basically a two-parter, we're now
Hmm.
moving on to new. We had the story before last, which was with Frank. That felt like a kind of an episodic standalone thing,
Hmm.
and now this is feeling kind of like an episodic standalone thing. The through line is Joel and Ellie, but it really is having that almost like not quite like a Mandalorian or something, where we're just kind of going from plot to plot. There
Hmm.
is more continuity there, but it still feels that way to some degree.
Yeah,
And
it's the whole plot that continues. It's just the growth of Joel and Ellie, and we continue to have them run into different characters that are slightly mirror images of them. And I do like the changes that they
mhm,
do with Henry and Sam, which help
yes,
mirror it even more. We'll get into them. I guess we can right off the bat because they're at the beginning of the episode, holding them at gunpoint. But just the fact that they have now made Sam younger and he is deaf, which
hmm
makes him rely on Henry even more, shows exactly the exact same relationship that Joel
also
and
shows
Ellie
that
have.
Ellie somehow knows. She's learned sign language. Apparently, that's something Fedra teaches you in school, is sign language.
Well,
So good to
I
know.
think she's learning as from the small conversations
Was
they
she?
have
She was learning
with
real
Henry.
fast. If that's the
She's
case,
quick. She's a smart
yeah.
kid.
Um, but yeah, we do flash. We don't get quite. It builds back up to the point
That's
where
right.
they're holding each
Yeah, they
other
were
at
just showing
gunpoint
the.
from the
Mhm.
previous episodes. We start with Melanie Linsky. I don't think I said her name once the last time we talked because I couldn't think of it. Like the contrast between her actions and her demeanor. She's got that kind of sweet demeanor and
Mhm.
appearance, and doesn't seem like somebody who would ever be committing mass murder. But here she is
Right.
committing mass murder
Yeah,
on her weird, dumb revenge quest.
in the podcast with the creators, they called her a what would happen if a kindergartner teacher created a this evil group, and how would she run it? And you kind of see that in that time where she has him in the cell and talking about, oh, how does it make you feel better, like backstabbing your friends and your neighbors and selling them out and basically going after all the rats, which is what we learned Henry
Hmm
is one as well. And honestly, I kind of liked that twist where, I mean, we all already knew that a lot of this came down to her brother dying,
hmm
but she was able to take it in a whole nother direction and even stronger. And we have a great conversation later on in the episode where a guy basically went, you know what? I really liked your brother, but he never did anything.
hmm
You are the one that made us free, so we're following you, and that gives her even
Right.
more power.
You're way
And there
more
are
willing to knock heads.
right, there are more. There's a lot of similarities to different things that happen in the second game, and obviously
that's what I was.
that
That's what I was
plot point
picking up on.
was nailed in a lot during that game, but it happened a lot here.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was picking up on in the last
Hmm.
episode, and it's even more so. It has that. The thing that bugged me the most about Last of Us Part Two, again, spoiler free,
Hmm.
is that it took kind of a both sides stance to everything, where it's like everybody's a little good and everybody's a little bad and everybody's a little in the wrong and everybody's out for revenge and they've all got kind of a point.
Hmm.
And it just became a thing where it's like, no, just take a. I realize that life is not black and white, but at some point you've got to take a position here. And at least the show, I imagine if this was Walking Dead and we were spending a season with this character, this leader character.
Hmm.
I was very happy that we spent 2 episodes with her and no more. Even though they were 2 good episodes, I feel like they got the point across. I
Yeah.
don't need to see any more of her actions. Like it was fun seeing the resistance basically get wiped out
Hmm.
at the end of this, getting what they deserve by way of zombie mauling.
Yes.
But we've got to build up to that. So this is once again a lot of game similar stuff here as far as the escape through the tunnel. So uh, Sam and oh gosh, hang on. What's Sam's dad? Why
Henry.
is it why
Well,
is
it's
it
his older brother is Henry.
Sorry, Henry.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes. Henry and Sam, they watch Joel and Ellie kill those other guys.
Hmm.
And even though they were, they had an escape plan that they were about to execute after the doctor guy doesn't come back to them. He goes out and gets food. And of course, we already know what's happened to him because we
Right.
saw him killed in the
Mhm.
last one. So at some point, Henry decides, yeah, he's not coming back. So we're gonna make our escape now, and that's when he sees Joel and Ellie kill those guys, and he says, "Change of plan." And he goes to surprise them. We get to the point where they're all holding guns on each other,
Mhm.
and then that situation gets diffused, largely thanks to the kids being there.
God, the conversation between
Oh, I
Ellie
loved
and
it.
Joel
I love
while at
Peter Pascal.
gunpoint is
Every
so
time Peter
good.
Pascal speaks, just more sarcastic.
Yes, it's that was one of my favorite lines on the entire show.
That was great. He just has asshole voice. Everything he says is like that.
You're right.
If that was the case, he'd be. Did you ever see the SCTV sketch where Dave Foley is the guy who always sounds sarcastic no matter what he says, and just
Mm-mm.
everybody hates him? That's great.
Hmm.
Any anyway, so they decide to team up for their escape because Henry says like, "Look, I figured out their patterns. Also, I'm a federal collaborator." And then he gives his backstory to justify being a federal collaborator, which apparently was to get medicine for Sam because
Mm-hmm.
Sam had leukemia. Sam's got every ailment at some point. Like, how is, uh, he's got leukemia, he's deaf, and he's gonna get zambied by the end. So I don't know. The kid can't catch a break.
He did not have a good time.
No,
Let's just say that.
uh, but keeping him alive a little while longer is apparently worth giving the the resistance leader to Fedra
Mm-hmm.
and antagonizing the resistance and having the resistance after you, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And on a big, I don't know if Henry expected the level of revenge quest that's going on here, where he's basically got an army after him, but he must have known that something was coming. Um,
Well, I think when you rat on somebody, I would guess you don't believe people are going to figure out it was you when you first do the
Possibly.
ratting. You're like, I'm going to do it secretly, and then I wouldn't know how it works.
Yeah,
But
you think he was trying to do it without people knowing?
well, not the resistance knowing. I think I would guess that is how you continue to stay a rat
Okay, he was just found out at some point.
is doing
Yeah,
it
who knows? Who
secretly.
knows whether he knew that shit was going to come down on him or whether he thought he could keep it on the down low. We don't really get that much of the backstory. We just get the key points,
Mm-hmm.
which is that he gave up Melaninsky's brother, and now she angry and after him.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to temporarily work together to get out of here, and then we'll split up. Joel says, "I don't work with collaborators," and like, you do now. So that is when we then get, and they also have a conversation about like, "Oh, you guys survived the clicker. You are badass. Like
Right.
you're the ones to help
Multiple
us.
players.
Like we know all the ways, but you're the ones who are actual badasses
Mm-hmm.
who can get out alive." And he's not wrong about that. There is quite a bit of badassery that is about to occur. Going through the tunnels, actually, I thought there was going to be some zombie action in the tunnels, and that goes fairly uneventfully. But
Yeah,
once they come out,
well, they saved all the zombies. The zombie budget was used later in the episode.
yes, the zombies were all. We do learn early on that, like, oh yeah, Fedra didn't really get rid of the zombies; they just put them underground.
Yeah,
I guess that's a thing. Like, they just seal them off, I guess, underground, which
I
as a
guess.
temporary solution, not the worst thing, but not too surprising. What happens? Which is, you know, the gang, our heroes, almost make their escape out of town. They come back out of the other side of the tunnel. They're on,
Well,
in the middle of like an
before you do that, one thing with the tunnels that I want to bring up is
Oh,
while
sure.
we don't get the full story arc of the weird school that was, because
Mhm.
they do it the school during the game that was after getting out of Pittsburgh, and you're still with Henry and Sam for a bit. They kind of combine all of that together here, and it works out pretty good while you're still under the town of Kansas City, and you kind of shows just how there's Fedra has created this underground sanctuary spot there where they try to make it as normal as they can for kids, and it was really cool to see Ellie and Sam have their conversations while Henry and Joel are making fun of the catchphrase of the comic book and not understanding what they were getting into. I just it's parts like that with not only with the show but with the video game where they do a good job of
Mhm.
going, well, there's a little bit of normalcy still here, and now we're gonna wreck everything. But
Hmm.
I like that part.
I agree. I agree. I do like the glimpses of
Mhm.
humanity in the midst of all this, but then that's kind of a
But then
staple.
reality goes out the window when they get them back to the surface.
Yeah, it feels almost surreal or hyper real. Some of
Mhm.
the stuff that's happening out there. I mean, it's some amazing vistas. Well, not yet, because at the when they come out, the streets are empty and
Mhm.
everything's quiet, and they're keeping their voice down, asking like, "Why are we keeping our voice down? There's nobody here." And then there's a sniper, and Joel
Mhm.
goes to take care of the sniper, and that's a cool little encounter where Joel gives him a chance to live. Just slide your gun over and wait an hour, and you will let us go, and we'll be okay. And the guy makes a move. Joel shoots him.
Mhm.
So now Joel has the sniper rifle, was just in time for the whole goddamn army to appear.
Yeah, he was on the old radio, and that's actually I really like that. I mean, the scene's very small, but I really like that too because again, kind of a nod to part two is like these people are just normal people. That's what happens when a resistance takes over an army. It's not like you
Mhm.
took it over with army people. There's like one or two army people in your resistance. The rest are just town folk that are taking up different positions. So it's like, who do we have guarding this one spot that no one ever goes to? Ah, put the old man out there. He'll be fine.
Well, I think though that they must have had some inkling of where they were going if they were going to pull the whole army there,
Well, he had
or
the
or
radio.
maybe
He
he
called
just
him in. Yeah, he
okay,
has a
okay.
radio and he
They've
calls him
just
in.
appeared. They appear pretty fast.
Yeah. Well,
like within
he was shooting
minutes.
at him for a while.
Okay,
So,
okay, fair, fair.
and it's a
Uh,
TV show. We gotta go.
yeah, oh, sure, sure. I'm not like ding cinema sins. No, never
Right.
gonna do that. Anyway, but yeah, so the whole goddamn army shows up,
Hmm.
and they've got a bulldozer which they're using. There's a bunch of cars set up, kind of to make
Hmm.
a natural barrier that they're bulldozing through to get to Joel, Ellie, and Henry and Sam, and that's and Joel manages to snipe the driver of the bulldozer, so the bulldozer veers off the road and smashes into a building and starts kind of smashes into the basement of the building and starts kind of descending and basically creating like an emergence type hole.
Hmm.
Though we don't yet see that happen. That doesn't fully commence until after we've got a little bit of a standoff here,
Right.
where Melanie Linsky gives her big speech there. Henry is about to just let Sam and Ellie go off together and sacrifice himself and give himself up. He's trying to talk her down, like take us and let them go. It's like, no, they killed those guys of ours in the last episode. We're not gonna let them go.
Hmm.
So they have that whole standoff, and it actually seems like I really wanted Joel to just snipe her
You
because it
sent me
seemed like
that
he had
message.
like the perfect position. Of course, if he did that, all hell would break loose immediately.
Nothing would have went well for him. I really like that speech of hers for a couple reasons. That is a perfect bad guy speech of no, I'm not letting any of you go. You're not going to talk me off this ledge. But it still has that inkling of what makes I'm a wrestling fan, and what makes a good bad guy believable in wrestling is their argument is something that is true. And you just hate the way they're saying it. And what she said was exactly true. Why is his life more important than the life you just took? So I'm gonna take then the whole revenge thing of you took mine, so I'm gonna take yours, and so on and so
Well,
forth.
it's
And that's what we got
kind
in the
of, but
entire
there
part two
is
of the game. But at least she's like, you know what? It's like you took a life from me. Why is your life more important than his? So
but
I like that aspect.
with these kind of arguments, context and nuance goes completely out of the window. So you can say that like she's making a sensible argument of why should you be able to get away with this, but then you look at the actual actions, and Joel and Ellie only kill in self defense. Joel always gives an opportunity, like you have a chance to surrender here. You don't have to do this.
Mhm.
Like Joel, they do not kill unless they absolutely have to, as
Well,
opposed
now,
to Melanie Lynskey and company, who are just going around murdering everybody.
but that's what we see Joel now. Obviously, Joel has a past for 20 years that they have continued to hint at that we don't never. I don't think we ever find out in any of the games what exactly he used to do, but he was not a good guy. And again, we saw well in the game Pittsburgh, in the show Kansas City, where he sees the guy in the road and he goes, he's not hurt. Why do you know that? Because I used to do all that stuff. So
Hmm.
he would kill for reasonable
Sure, sure. But
means
I mean,
back
if we just
then.
we look at the actions on, okay, but yeah, but we're not looking at Joel's record as to whether or not these people should be angry at him. I don't know. Also, I feel like that's maybe, you know, I'm sure Joel has done terrible things that he
Mhm.
himself feels horribly guilty of, but he may also very well be exaggerating or overstating how terrible it may just be that like, okay, he has a conscience, and doing, you know, even a fraction of what other people are doing in this post-apocalypse
And
is over the line for him, or
but
is
I think that's where this all comes from is what The Last of Us tries to do so well, and what Part Two is trying to hit at by switching perspectives, and
Mhm.
I know a lot of people hated it. Is we only think of Joel as a good guy because he's our main character. If Melanie
Because he
was
generally exhibits good guy behavior.
not always,
Mostly.
and not the stuff that we saw that we have not seen in those 20 years.
I mean, sure, yeah, we can talk about the
I guarantee you, Joel
off-screen
had.
lore.
But still, Joel probably had those same situations that Melanie had shortly after his kid died, where he did horrible, horrible things because he thought it was like, well, you took my kid, so I'm going to take this life. And we don't see it on TV, so Joel's the good guy and these guys are the bad guy. And that's the whole point. None of these guys are good. It's it's just
Mm,
which side do we are we going to pick up to be our side? And obviously
I
we
don't
pick Joel's side because he's our main character.
I don't know if I'm on board with that completely. I
It's
think
okay
unless
because
we
Joel's not a
unless
good
we
guy,
actually
so it's
see,
okay.
unless we knew what happened, unless we know unless there is a flashback that shows us here is what Joel's talking about, and we see him do it, like just hinting at I've done bad things. Like what? Okay, sure. We've never seen you do bad things. You've always been the hero.
I was gonna make a joke, but it would have been out of bad taste, so I won't.
Oh
We
no,
won't
no,
do
I
about
like a bad I like a
it. No,
bad
it's
taste
good.
joke.
Move on.
Okay, sure. Anyway, um, so yeah, so he had the opportunity to snipe her, doesn't do it, thankfully for everybody, and doesn't need to, because this is the point where the the bulldozer goes all the way into the ground, like it's basically like a building
Mhm.
explodes, it sinks into a sinkhole, and then out of the sinkhole emerge hundreds and hundreds of zombies, including a heavy. I forget what those are
The
called.
bloater. The
Bloater.
bloater.
Thank you.
We get
Yeah,
very video gamey here in this section, and I absolutely love it. It's so fun. The crazy thing is most of those infected that come out of the ground are real. I mean,
you
obviously
mean
they add some
extras?
CGI and stuff, but
Yes, yes. I mean, yeah, you want to use extras for stuff like that if you can. But the bloater, obviously, I mean, the bloater is just great. A great piece of
mhm.
CGI, looks awesome,
Mhm.
and gets really cool. He'll rip off heads and rip people in two and smash them into the ground. And it's just a cool
Yeah,
thing, and it
and
just
the even cooler part with the bloater, you don't have to kill him. I mean, in a video game thing, you have to take down the boss. That's the whole point of
mhm,
video games. And here, it just shows a bloater's unstoppable. It's a
pretty
bloater shows
much.
up, get out, just
So you don't
escape
think
and
they're going to
go.
kill a bloater by season's end? I think they will. I think this is the establishing. This is a great way of establishing, like, look how unbelievably like tough and badass this thing is. You do not want to deal with it. like get away from it if you
Yeah, they
possibly
might,
can. But
like in the
eventually,
final episode would be
yeah,
interesting.
they're
So
gonna
we'll see.
eventually have to
Maybe a
do
bloater
something.
goes down, but
Hmm.
but the bloater wasn't even the best infected in this scene.
Trying to think.
The
Oh
li-
yeah, we got some cool clickers. Yeah, yeah, I like that little clicker that takes out Melly
the little
Linsky.
clicker with the Blues Clues shirt that does gymnastics into the car to go after
Yeah,
Ellie, and then
yeah,
takes
that's really
out
awesome.
the resistance leader, and
And it just rage monkeys her face.
her movements were so scary when she is just going absolutely ape. It
It
was great.
reminded me. Did you see the new Keegan Peele movie?
Is
Nope.
nope, I have not. I've
Okay.
It's like on Peacock or Paramount or something, and I keep thinking about watching
I'm
it, and I
trying to
have
think. I
not.
think I may have rented it on Amazon. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a scene in Nope this reminded me of. Let's just
Oh
put it
yeah,
that way.
that's funny.
It's good. You'll like it. So yeah, that's a big. So yeah, big, huge set piece. Joel is sniping away, and Ellie is doing her cool knife stabby neck thing. That is
Hmm.
so such an iconic thing from the game. We see her do
Yep.
it a couple times in a row
Hmm.
here, which is great. And
She
yeah,
saved
in
those
the
shivs.
in the commotion, everybody, well, not everybody, our group of four gets away.
Hmm.
And next time we see them, they're in a safe house. We don't know exactly where they are. It kind of doesn't matter. We just know they've gotten away at this point. And we get the famous scene.
Hmm.
The We first get the conversation between Ellie and Sam, where she shows him his scar, which she shouldn't be doing. But he's at this. He shows her his scar, which is a fresh scar. So we know he's infected,
Hmm.
and she's making some kind of a last ditch, like, look, my blood is medicine. I'm going to put some of my blood on your wound. Maybe it'll do something.
Right. It's
Uh,
just
kid, kid
a kid
logic,
thing.
right?
Absolutely. And I
Yeah,
actually
not.
really love the changes they made to this scene. At the beginning of the scene, I was a little worried because with him being deaf, it kind of drug on a little bit for him to have to write
Hmm.
down all of his things instead of the
The
conversation
etch a
that they
sketch.
had.
Yeah,
But
he's got an etch a sketch that they pass
yeah,
back and forth.
but just the fact that he is younger, so Ellie feels like she has to do everything she can to protect him. He is looking up to her, so he feels comfortable enough to show him the bite. That does not happen in the game.
Hmm.
We know he's infected because we see it, but he hides it from everybody and then
Hmm.
ends up turning. But just the fact that he felt comfortable enough with Ellie to go,
Yeah, they've built a lot
look,
of trust over this
I'm bit
episode.
and I'm scared and I don't know what to do, and then for her to try to play hero is it was such a great way to do it.
Hmm. Yeah. So that's a good scene, and that's as you say, an altered scene. But the next scene falls into the category of we just recreated the video game shot for shot.
Yes.
Even I, as someone who hasn't seen this video game in a very long time, like a decade,
Mhm.
holy shit, like uncanny,
Nearly word for
uncanny.
word. All the actions were about the same. The emotion, I knew it was coming. Like Haley, that I was watching it with, had no idea it was coming. I knew it was coming, and I still got as emotional as she did. They did it beautifully. And then
Hmm.
what we get afterwards, after Henry has to take down Sam and then takes his own life, and
Hmm.
we kind of
Yeah, it's
have
such a
that
great
moment of quiet. We get that little extra scene that I don't remember from the game, but again, it's been a while.
the
And I'm
burial.
with you, just this icon, that moment so iconic, but I can't remember the exact scene afterwards. I want to say during the game, it goes to black and then we go right into fall. But here we get that little moment of them burying the two and putting the etch a sketch on there that says sorry. And then it
You're
was
right.
really powerful to me that out of everything that goes on, and it's usually Joel is like, all right, let's move on. It's Ellie going, all right, let's go. It's like
Hmm.
she
Yeah,
is
that's a
starting
new
to get
scene
to
for
that
sure.
point
That's
where
brand
death
new.
is not affecting her as much. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. But just to describe the killing itself, just because it's such a great moment. I mean,
Hmm.
Sam turns rather quick. Of course, once again, we're gonna have the exact same conversation we had 10 minutes ago, so we don't know how much time has passed.
Right.
So yeah, he pretty much immediately after he shows her his scar, he turns, and they've got that thing where they're wrangling on the ground, and Henry's got his revolver out, and he's pointing it at Joel because he doesn't want Joel to hurt Sam. But then he makes that snap decision, to protect Ellie, shooting Sam, and
Mm-hmm.
then immediately after that, what have I done? Shoots himself in the head. Incredible moment. I mean, he did.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where it's like, objectively, logically, you did the right thing. You made the right snap decision in a moment, in a difficult moment,
Mm-hmm.
and but still couldn't. Even though what else? I guess there's nothing else for Henry. I guess if anything had happened to Sam in any form, I think Henry
Yeah,
would have
and
just
you
been
just get
done.
right. You have to imagine you get rushed over with guilt, even if in the end what you did was the right thing to do because Sam's gone at that point, and you're trying to save Ellie. But I just think of it more that like in the game we see that Sam is bit, but he doesn't show anybody. Then you think he goes and lays down and falls asleep, and then wakes up, and infected. But here, his whole thing with Ellie was, "Please stay awake with me," and then we see Ellie falling asleep in the chair. So I'm just imagining, Sam sitting there watching Ellie fall asleep, and then having to
Mm,
sit there and have those thoughts go into his mind until the infected just takes over it, and like the lonely feeling he has to have while staying
hmm
awake all night was just the whole thing is just so well done and just beautiful and heart wrenching and all the other stuff you can say about it.
A lot of hope or confidence from Ellie to go to sleep with an around somebody who's been
Well,
infected.
she was hoping that blood was going to work.
Yeah, well, hope you can hope as much as you.
Right.
That's not that's a faint hope at
Hmm.
best. So yeah, bold move on her part. But of course, with her
All
immunity, I
right,
guess she's just.
is
Oh yeah, go on.
that's the fantastic episode. So you got a rating for me?
Mm. So it's funny that you're saying this is your favorite episode so far this season. For me, I'm coming in with a 9. I think.
9. Okay. I
Yeah,
mean, 9. I'm still absolutely fantastic.
9 is
I'm
it's a great score.
yeah. I'm breaking it down. I'm giving it my 10. I mean, you've
Wow,
given a couple other ones 10 so far. I can't help it. I absolutely love this episode.
it's probably my second or third favorite so far.
Yeah, the view that
Um,
you have as 10's the first episode and the third episode. I can't blame you. I mean,
yeah.
I think it's those three hands down right now. Two and four are good, but 1, 3, and 5 have just been absolutely stellar.
So
And
the thing with 5 is just you know the first half hour, 40 minutes. It is all like the first half of it. It was just good to me. Like good
yeah,
character interaction, good relationship building, good stealth, sneaking around, some more time with the resistance, and then the finale was freaking awesome,
hmm
and it was very satisfying to see that resistance get completely owned
hmm
by that huge zombie horde. It was great.
right, yeah,
So I actually think this probably would have been more like an 8 or something for me, except that like the last 20-30 minutes just
hmm
really stepped it up.
oh yeah,
So that's where I'm
I
landing at
would
a
get that.
9. But up until then, it was just kind of a, you know, generically good episode of The Last of Us.
Right,
It's not like the show hasn't set a consistent standard that
right.
it's keeping up. So,
And we got 4 episodes left. I mean, there's only
mhm.
3 that have left to be released, but we have 4 more to talk about on here, and we will see if the other 4 can hold out ground. You have to believe it will. Now that we are starting to be able to piece together what each of the other episodes are going to be, they are all going to just crush it, and I'm very
Mhm.
excited to see them and talk about it. But I would say we'll see you next week, but it'll be one of those things where we'll see where life happens. I know Jens, like you said, you're headed off to New York, and then we
Mhm.
will do our best to meet up perfectly and get these other episodes out for you guys.
Yes. Yes. Might be 2 episodes this coming week, so we'll see.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, we'll make it work, and we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. But for now, that's Jens. I'm Randy. You guys have a good one.
Cheerio.